Alright guys, so the very beginning, after you make your boxes, we're going to practice with colored pencils by doing some pressure changes and some building on our layers. So like we did with the value work with our pencils, we're going to do a similar approach when we do value work with colored pencils. You're going to start out by creating that light value. If you liked using that cross-hatching pattern, you can definitely do that. If you like doing small circles or something like that, I try to evenly do as well as I possibly can by filling it in with one application with gentle pressure, and then build on kind of like that cross-hatching technique by using my colored pencil the opposite direction that I was rubbing it in the very first application. After I do the medium pressure, I'm going to repeat that process and add an additional third layer. And this is my harder values. So I'm going to actually apply harder pressure with my colored pencil. I do want you to notice that even though I'm applying a little bit more pressure on this application, you are still seeing some of those speckles and dots from your piece of paper. I don't mind those lots of times, but in the following videos that you will see after this, there are some things that I'm going to go over next so that you can slightly burnish those that texture away. So I've got a light pressure, a medium pressure, and a hard pressure. Now I'm going to go back over this with a hard pressure again, and I'm gently rubbing this again with a little bit of firm pressure in the opposite direction, and this is going to decrease some amount of those speckles and the texture that's in my paper. The next thing that's good is, just like with our value work, is practicing your pressure control so you graduate from heavy pressure into light pressure. So it's good to just practice this. And basically that's all I'm going to do, but I want you to see the difference in this box and what I'm going to be doing in the next box. So with heavy pressure, I'm starting out, and then I'm gently going to lighten up that pressure. So I'm just like, remember I said something about tickling the page? I'm basically tickling the page at the very end with the lightest pressure I possibly can to create that graduation. Now repeat the process. Good, you get lots of practice. Repeat that process again in the next box. But we are going to be using an eraser and a white colored pencil. If you don't have a white colored pencil for whatever reason in the pack that you've gotten, you could get a lighter colored pencil than it was still kind of like red, so maybe a blush color, or you could get a maybe a light pink or something like that. I'm taking my eraser here, and you can see that I am gently kind of erasing on top of that colored pencil. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see. This actually is going to smooth out some of that. Now I'm going to do the same process, but I'm using the white colored pencil. Notice how I'm not going horizontally. I'm going up and down and moving my way from my light to my dark. I kind of like the way it does better with the white colored pencil. Some packs of colored pencils may say a blending, or it looks like more of a clear pencil. That will work too to burnish with. Color pencil really is, I know we normally don't think of it this way, but you're going to get the most out of your colored pencil if you understand the layering of them. The remaining videos are going to talk more about that building of these layers. But what you can see here is I've came in with my red, and then I'm taking my yellow, and with firm pressure, I'm going over the top of this. What this does is actually burnishing at the same time, so smoothing out, and you can see I've made an orange. So kind of really natural for it to do this, but the process of layering, it sees and it mixes those two colors together to get different results. All right, after you have practiced this skill, we're going to move on to the bottom boxes. And I am so sorry, but when I was videotaping and I zoomed back out, I didn't realize that I cut off part of that box. But I'll fix that in a second. All right, so I am using the 1/3 rule in this. What it means is I am going to try to blend my colors as seamlessly as possible using 1/3. So 1/3 of my area is going to be colored with one color, another third is going to be colored with another color, and the final third with the last remaining color. I'm using an analogous color palette, so I'm starting with yellow. You can see I've used heavy pressure, medium, and then light, so I've done that graduation. Now I'm going to reverse that. I'm going to go light pressure on top, not all the way, but part of the way over onto the yellow. And then I'm going to increase where it gets to that lighter pressure with my yellow into more medium pressure, and then finally hard pressure. The goal being achieved in this is that I am going to seamlessly meld these colors together without seeing a stripe or a white space in there, so that I can create the effect of a beautiful transition going from one analogous color, side by side on the color wheel, to the next. So I am going to do a third technique again, so I'm using heavy pressure to medium pressure, and then I'm going to finalize with light pressure going almost all the way over to the end. Now, exactly what I did with the yellow, I'm going to reverse that with my red, so the next color on the color wheel. So red, heavy pressure, medium pressure, light pressure going into the orange. After I've done this, I normally find, especially on this because I didn't build up those layers like we were talking about, that I have to go back in there and kind of go back on top of some of these if I want those speckles, you know, those little bitty lines that are left over from the piece of paper, because I haven't burnished hard on there. So what I like to do when I finish up with this is go back with my lighter value. So I'm going to go back in with my orange. I am going to go with heavy pressure on top of that red, and then I'm going to gently kind of lift off until I get all the way to where the darker color is with the red. I generally like to start doing any work with my lightest value first, and then move into my darkest, because it's going to be very hard. You're not going to be able to achieve that lighter value if you've gone over on top of it with a darker value. So I like to try to keep those light colors pure. If you want to, the final burnishing technique is you go over the last layer. Layer is the big word on these projects. Layer is going to be where you can go back in with a white or a lighter value and remove any of those little speckles. All right, that's it for this video. The next one will be on values with spheres, and then the last one will be your choice.